Hello everyone, my name is Tori, and I did my report on Italy. So Italy has a population of 59.6 million and a GDP of 2.5 trillion. It has a very diversified industrial economy that's divided into a developed industrious north, which is mainly dominated by private companies, and then a less developed, highly subsidized agricultural south, where unemployment is very high. And these percentages are just representative of the employment in different areas, such as employment in agriculture, employment in industries, and employment in services. As of 2020, their employment rate was 9.3%. Their current political leader is Sergio Mattarella. Sergio is a jurist. He is a lawyer, a politician who has also been serving as the president of Italy since 2015. And as of recently in 2022, he was reelected. Sergio is considered a Christian leftist politician. He was a leading member of the Christian democracy. And considering that applies to his views and his behaviors towards accepting certain agreements or rejecting agreements. So Italy is considered an EU member state, and so the EU has the authority to negotiate trade agreements with the third states on behalf of all of the EU member states, which includes Italy. So the president of the republic, or Sergio, has the power to ratify international agreements. And once ratified, the agreement becomes fully binding for Italy, as well as competent ministers who are representatives of the executive power. Their role is to countersign the agreements along with Sergio. 2 Italian apparel inventions. The first one being the stiletto. The stiletto has been accredited to Salvatore Ferragamo, who paved the way for stilettos by inventing the steel arch. Some historians credit him as well as other fashion designers such as Roger Vivier and Andre Peguria. A stiletto in Italian means sharp knife. And eyeglasses. The first eyeglasses had frames made of metal or bone and had lenses made of quartz because the opticians of that time didn't have the capabilities of producing flawless lenses in glass. And it is assumed that Salvino di Armate probably invented these glasses around 1285, although other sources suggest an earlier origin. So in the 14th century, Venetian craftsmen were making discs for the eyes, and Italians gave these glass discs that were finely ground, the name lenses because they were similar in shape to lentil beans. And you might know that Benjamin Franklin, American scientist and philosopher, is credited with the invention of the bifocals, which divided his lenses for distant and near vision. The 3 key imports for textile and apparel for Italy are women's girls' suits, ensembles, jackets, blazers, dresses, mainly formal wear, as well as trousers, overalls, and shorts. Their second key import is men's or boys' suits, ensembles, jackets, a formal wear as well as overalls and shorts. And their third key import is head garments. And these are the amount in imports in US dollars. And their major import sources, the first one being Germany, second is France, and third is China. The 3 key exports, the first 2 are similar to the previous imports. Men's and women's ensembles, jackets, and blazers, as well as with overalls and shorts. And the third key export is women's or girls' overcoats and overlayers, such as windbreakers, cloaks, capes, a lot of outerwear, and just jackets that you would wear for colder weather. And there are 3 major export destinations. The first one is Germany, the second is France, and the third is the US. One major trade agreement is the EU-Japan Economic Partnership Agreement. This agreement entered into force on February 1st, 2019. The EU firms had already begun to export 70 billion in goods and 28 billion in services to Japan every year. And in the past, they did face some trade barriers, which made it hard for them to compete. But the new trade agreement removes tariffs and other trade barriers, creates a platform for them to help prevent any further obstacles. It helps shape global trade rules in line with higher standards and shared values. And it sends a powerful signal that the 2 of the world's biggest economies reject protectionism. And the first major design house is Bottega Veneta. Bottega Veneta was founded in Vicenza in 1966 by Michel Tadei and Renzo Vengario. A regular patron was Andy Warhol. He often stopped to visit the New York store and went on to produce a short film for the brand. Giles Deacon attempted to revitalize the brand. However, it wasn't until Bottega was acquired by the Gucci Group in 2001 that Bottega found a better platform. And presently, Daniel Lee is creative director at Bottega. He took over in June 2018. Second designer house is Gucci. Guccio was born in 1881 in a family of leather goods makers in Florence, Italy. And in 1921, he left to open his first store. In the early years of the company, Guccio sold leather products to the wealthiest in Italy. While he was making luggage, he also made saddles for horses from some of the finest Italian leather. The popularity continued to grow, with more and more wealthy class becoming a part of their clientele. Among them was Jackie Kennedy, who famously sported a Gucci purse in 1961, and it instantly turned into a must-have Gucci product and became popularly known as the Jackie. And Maurizio would come to take control of the Gucci Group as chairman in 1989 with Investecorp's approval. And it was in the 90s that the Gucci brand was coming back from the brink of bankruptcy when Tom Ford was made creative director of Gucci in 1994. And as of 2015, Bizzarri picked Alessandro Michele as the new creative director, where he currently remains. Moving on to 2 manufacturers in Italy, the first one being Luxottica. Leonardo Del Vecchio established Luxottica, and in its early years, the company manufactured components and accessories for the optical industry. They made their first pair of glasses in 1971, and in 1981, its international expansion began. Luxottica would continue to invest in research and development to improve the functionality of the lenses and frames, such as acquiring an innovative flexible hinge patent that allowed the temples to adapt to the dimensions of the face. In 1974, Luxottica acquired Sarcone, a well-established wholesale distributor on the Italian market, and they would go on to sign a licensing agreement with Giorgio Armani, Brooks Brothers, Bulgari, and Chanel. In 1990, Luxottica acquired Vogue Eyewear. In 1999, Luxottica moved overseas to the United States for another important acquisition, Ray-Ban. And in 1995, it was the first eyewear manufacturer to enter directly into optical retail. Second manufacturer being Zeiss Excelsa. In 1948, Dino Pizzuti found Zeiss Excelsa in a small artisan footwear workshop in Montegranaro, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. At the beginning of the 1980s, Zeiss Excelsa created the retail division, which counts between Italy and abroad. And through the Zeiss Kids division, the company covers the market from 0 to 12 years with brands such as the Dock Steps, Harley Davidson, Bickenbergs, as well as many others. And as an international company, they have built important production units all over Rome, in Slovakia, Romania, as well as in the Far East. Moving on to two retailers headquartered in Italy, starting with Calzedonia. Calzedonia is an Italian fashion group founded in Verona by Sandro Veronesi in 1986. They have over 5,000 shops worldwide as of 2021. Besides the Calzedonia brand, the group also owns various other stores that specialize in bathing suits, tights, and leggings. And their global net sales as of 2020 is $129 million US. And Veronesi's son, Marcello, is currently the US CEO. Second retailer is Ray-Bans. Ray-Bans net sales as of 2021 is $355.8 million US dollars. They are operated by Luxottica Manufacturing Group. And just a backstory on how their aviator glasses became very popular. There were test pilots that began to fly higher and higher altitudes, and they needed to defend themselves against temperatures that got to as low as minus 80 degrees. And the aviators would wear leather hoods and insulated their eyes with fur-lined goggles. And to lift those goggles to see for even a small fraction of time was to risk going blind or death. McCready, who was a test pilot, began working with Bosch and Lam to design goggles especially suited to protect against this. And Ray-Ban glasses promised real scientific glare protection, not just for test pilots, but for fishermen and golfers. And during World War II, they became standard gear for military men. Coming into the last part of my presentation, the fabric sample. Silk production in Italy began during the Crusades and continued to grow during the 16th century. But around the 20th century, it lost its hold on trading silk to China and Japan because of a silkworm disease epidemic. So they started to begin to raise their own silkworms. And to this day, they stand as a prominent silk producer, particularly in the Como province, which is pictured on the right-hand side. And they have become the self-proclaimed European capital of silk. Como houses nearly 1,000 companies in the silk industry and employs more than 20,000 workers. The province boasts of its strong silk industry and even features museums to showcase the region's extraordinary universe of silk production. Brands such as Versace, Valentino, and Gucci source their silk for the Lombardia region. So these pictures are just examples of how they would produce it, raise the worms, and as the worms would grow and come out of their cocoons were harvested, and their cocoons are essentially made of silk, so they would spin it out of their cocoons. They would take the silk out of the cocoons and use it for making garments. And these are some more pictures of the Como province. On the right-hand side is a villa. So you can rent out that villa or you can stay there for a moment. And it's so beautiful on the water with all the lush greenery behind it. And then on the left, there's essentially like a ledge you can walk out on over the water, if that doesn't freak you out at all. And this last slide is Some examples of what the silk gets produced into. These pictures are taken from a fabric seller in New York. By the yard, these silk garments are $150 to $250 per yard. And it is, as the description says, a stunning haute couture piece that is perfect for spring and summer. 100% silk charmeuse that has been printed on the matte crepe de chine side. And I thought that these were great examples of what spinning silk from silkworms can become, just these beautiful, lush garments. And that is the end of my presentation.